For everyone who doesn't know me, I'm Michael Rubino, president of All American Restoration, author of The Mold Medic, and I have here with me Harma, who happens to be the number one real estate agent in Los Angeles. One of the reasons why we both connected is Harma has actually gone through some mold issues himself. And so Harma, would love to hear kind of your story, what you went through, how you came to figure out that mold was a problem for you.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael, for having me. I never met someone actually before I had mold. I heard there's mold out there and I heard that people get affected, but I honestly never had the experience of with anyone or knew much about it. We were renting a house for 6 months. While we were remodeling, that house had a mold, and that my kids were even in the room. So they haven't been affected, and my partner haven't, but I have. And I learned that mold, just because there's mold doesn't mean it affects everyone. It's certain people can actually be affected a lot worse than some people can have high resistance. And I had a lot of gut issues and lots of pain. I saw so many doctors, any kind and any specialist, except the GI doctor. And last GI doctor found some stuff, and I realized our medical system is so, what's the nice way I can say, messed up, that if you forget about the insurance, but if you don't go deeper or demand, there's not much can be done. And so I found a doctor who is not only doesn't just follow the textbooks, he gives lectures, and he's amazing in LA. And I was lucky, it was pandemic, so the things were closed. And so otherwise he's on a waiting list. He has waiting list for a year. So I got to know him, and he did a test, and he came back that a high toxic and then mold infection. And I was like, what are you talking about? We're talking about my gut. I'm talking about my energy. And he goes like, you have mold. You have been exposed to mold somewhere. I'm not a mold doctor. I don't know even how to help you with this, but I can tell you that I can help you with your gut. But as long as you have mold, things will not be normal in your body. He asked me a few times, did I inspect my car? I thought that's really a joke, because I honestly didn't think a car can have a mold. And then I took my car to a mechanic, and mechanic said, yeah, we do this all the time. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in real estate. I have sold homes that had mold. I know a mold company, very good one in LA, that they do remediation. They do different testing for mold. I learned so much about which mold can affect you more, but I never experienced on your body, like how they, like that part. So it's fascinating. I have 400 agents. You will think this is something all of them will not, can hands down tell. Maybe one person out of them might know. I don't even know if that person exists. So the lack of knowledge about mold and what can do to your body is definitely unknown. I'm lucky that I know I have it, but we're far from getting it out of my body.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And, being in the real estate industry, you mentioned earlier, like there's such a lack of knowledge about mold. I find that to be truthful as well. When I talk to real estate agents and I'm like, hey, do you recommend your clients to get a mold inspection before they buy? And they're like, huh? They would have never thought. Our society in general is just has such a lack of knowledge regarding mold, right? And it's unfortunate. We don't know that mold is impacting our health until we're sick, right? So, and you would have never guessed mold, right? You went to a doctor and the doctor's like, you have mold, and you're like, what? Right? So what's interesting is, like you said, certain people are going to be more sensitive to mold than others. You happen to be, unfortunately, one of those people. You are so fortunate to have gone to a doctor that knew to check for mold, though, right? Because I can't tell you how many clients I have that are like, I went from doctor to doctor to doctor to finally find after like the fifth doctor, hey, you have mold. So it's so interesting. And you said something really interesting too, is like, hey, there's mold in my car, right? How does that happen? Well, cars get damp, right? Sometimes there's humidity out. We open the windows, or it's raining. We open the windows, whatever, just to, get a cross breeze going. We get some moisture into the car. Our shoes, if it's raining outside, right? We pick up water off our shoes and bring it into our car. It provides that damp environment. If you have mold in your house, you can easily transport it into your car. And if the conditions are right, mold will start to grow in your car. So it's very interesting that the mechanic you brought it to happened to know about that already. That's really cool. You must have like literally found just by luck the right people every step of the way, which is awesome.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, I think it's shocking that no, literally, I can tell you every 10 transactions, one buyer, one seller will have a mold issue and we have to address it. But it has never been in this angle. What can that actually happen? And it's mold is becoming extremely a scary topic for everyone. Oh, you have
Sure.
mold. And I think actually it's amazing if you know if there's mold. That's like awesome because you can know what to do. If you
Right.
don't, is the problem. Again, lack of knowledge. So that's why I'm very happy that you mentioned to do this, because even if we get 5 people to be aware and do something about this, I hope they don't get sick, because I'm telling you, it is painful. I have 3 kids. I have an extremely great business. I want to work out, and it just destroys you. You have no energy to do anything, and it's the worst feeling.
Can you tell us about that? Can you tell us, some of the symptoms that you experience just so others can know? It's really hard because mold symptoms are so much like other symptoms out there that it's really hard to tell like, hey, this could be mold. If you can shed some light on that, I think it'd be very helpful.
Everything happened to me was not suddenly. So if you are looking for a sudden change, then you can say it's mold. I don't think it wasn't my experience. It's gradually. It's like literally like how they say in the movies, mold grows. It's like slowly start eating me out from inside. And so if I take vitamin, because my gut was so contaminated, nutrition from my food, it wouldn't go in my body. Then I had the leaky gut. Then I got a bunch of other conditions, SIBO, SIFO, and it become we have good bacteria and bad bacteria no matter what you do. Mine was so off balance. And every time I tried to do good, have a probiotic, if a normal person will be great, I will get so sick, bloated, nauseous. And then the biggest thing was last 4 years, I feel extremely tired at all times. So I have thyroid issues. So I thought, oh, it's thyroid. And they keep testing me. And they're like, well, the thyroid level is perfect. And what I'm telling you, I feel the same way when my thyroid level was not perfect. Right. So they were like, well, we can change the medicine, but that wasn't thyroid. Then we're like, okay, you're getting older, the testosterone level is low. Maybe it's because of that. Then you get on a testosterone to be like balance it. But then that's as a side effects, which is mood and water retention. So you start doing everything else except thinking, I am toxic inside. I am contaminated by something else. And sadly, insurance wouldn't cover for the test, which I don't know which state. I'm not a doctor and I'm not an insurance agent, so I don't know anything. But I do know that mine, no doctor was going to pay even get a mold until my doctor said, hey, this test you have to pay, but we're going to find out what's in your body. And the levels came in that methane and so many things. And then the conclusion on the mold and all the toxin, all the asbestos that I have had accumulated in my body, they were all there. Again, I just think it's very sad. I think anyone who's not feeling good and they've been going to a few doctors and they can't figure out. I've been on so many MRIs and tests. They injected me with contrast, with that. Imagine all the things I injected myself and how much those cost. And they could have just done a few $100s test to find out, is my toxin levels in my body low or high? Because we all have toxins. It depends what you eat, which part of the country you live. We get food and environment go in your body. We know that. I am determined to do once a year the toxic test. I'm going to on my partner where it just where we live, we have to do it. And that's why people in environment, we got to be a little bit, we're responsible where we're going.
You bring up such a great point, right? For someone who's a mold expert and understanding how it impacts people, how many houses a day do you go inside to sell homes or to buy homes, right? As a real estate professional.
I will say good agent will see 50 homes a week.
Yeah. Wow. That's 50 homes. And when you walk into those homes, you have no idea what you're exposing yourself to.
I mean, think about it. It's numbers game. You don't think out of 50 homes, one has it? I will be honest with you. I have a very weird nose. So I smell things. And I used to say, this house has mold. This house has mold.
That's amazing.
The way I found the mold on the rental place, because he was like, there's a mold. So I grabbed the hammer and I opened the wall myself, and it was mold. And I
Wow.
was like, and everybody tested. They kept testing. They're like, no, no, there's no mold. I got a mold inspector from, because like, oh, if we want detailed tests, we have to open the wall. But again, no one wants to open the wall if you're buying a house. So it's like you got to go that extra step, and which is people think, oh, it's $500 or 1,000, whatever it is. I'm like, if you have a mold inspector who tells you, let's open the wall, and don't be cheap on that, or little stigma 2 by 2 inch open, you gotta do it. And that's where I saw it. And it was a restaurant across the street that I go to, and it's dark and very famous Mexican food. Everybody go, loud music. And I sat in a corner, and I remember I was with two of my team members, and I said, this restaurant has mold. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you again with your nose. And this is funny. I knew all this, and yet I didn't realize where I got exposed to this. So I said, it's mold. And they're like, no. I told the manager, I said, listen, I'm an agent across the street. That's my building. I come here all the time. I'm not here to scare you. I'm not suing. I'm just saying, I think you have mold. You may want to do something about it. It goes like, oh, no, we don't. And literally 2 weeks later, that sharp part of the restaurant was completely shut down, and there were plastic everywhere, and they were doing mold remediation. So I felt it. I just don't know where I got exposed to it.
You know what? That's awesome. So he basically played it down, but obviously he replayed that conversation over in his head and was like, maybe I should get it checked. So that's awesome. See, it's great. Like, you don't know how many people could have went to that restaurant on a daily basis that could be sensitive to mold and be impacted by that. So, believe it or not, I mean, that was an amazing thing that you did, whether you realize it or not. And it's, what's interesting is a lot of my clients who are sensitive to mold, they'll say that, like, I can tell instantly when I walk into a room, like I can literally sense it. So that's really cool. So I would say, listen to your body, man. It's really important because it really knows. How do you create this awareness in your practice? Have you thought about that? Like, is there some sort of training that you can do? I mean, obviously I can give you the mold medic for every single one of your employees. I'd be happy to do it. In fact, any educational programs that you can think of, you think would be good for your agents?
So it's interesting you said that. We have a team meeting once a month. Our office is very productive, is a really good team. We have 400 agents. Once a month, I coach for mindset. It's not real estate home. It's more like mindset and growth. So what I want to do, I made a video about the mold. I shared with someone who had mold too, who is a nutritionist, and she had mold. So when I met her randomly we were in a Halloween party, you couldn't see each other. And then I was like, hi, what's your name? I really couldn't even see what she looked like. And she said this. I said, what do you do? So I'm a nutritionist, and I help people if they have infection to mold. And I was like, what are you talking about? I just got diagnosed that I have mold. And I was like, I never heard of this. And now in a Halloween party, someone is telling me that.
Yeah.
So I brought her on the YouTube, and she shared about the food and the things you can do to detox your body. The moment I put the video out, including Joelle, was like, what? You have mold? Because most people in my industry, they're like, they have to look perfect. Their life, nothing that happens to them. I'm like, nope, I'm going through it. So I want to talk about that. One, pay extra, get that test done to make sure if you're not feeling good, make sure you don't have mold. Second, what are the things to look for yourself? And as well as if you have a client, you're buying and selling homes for them, don't be afraid of the mold sentence. It is okay if the house has mold. This, as a matter of fact, is great. It's fixable. And it depends, and let the consumer to know that, hey, you just can't move in for 30 days or whatever that is. It just becomes such a taboo. It's like, oh my God, mold, how are we going to handle this? I'm like, not you, clearly. We're going to have him seems mold like you to be involved.
Sure.
So I think that's the fear I want to change. Awareness I want to change by mold. It's okay. Yeah. Don't be afraid. You don't want to go far to be like me,
Yeah. You know what it is? It's like you can do something about it, right? And I think that's what people have to understand. Before there was a stigma, right? Like if the house had mold, it was like a dirty house or something. And that's not true. Most of my clients have multi-million-dollar houses. I mean, they're the most beautiful houses you ever walk into. And it just happens so that, there was a window that leaked for years and nobody realized, it's never intentional. These things happen. They can all be fixed, right? And mold can be remediated. Some better than others that kind of understand the science about it. But the point is, if you look at it as an opportunity cost, right? Like, I love this house. Maybe I spend $50,000 more on this house to fix it. Like, at least knowing that you can do it before you move in is great. Because on the flip side, if you don't check, if you don't do anything about it, you move in and then have to deal with it. It's much more costly. It's much more disruptive, right? So it just needs to be a part of people's plan. And if it's a part of your plan, buying and selling homes, guess what? It's just a part of the process. You jump through the hoops, you handle it, and you're going to live and breathe better because of it.
Yeah, and that's very true, because if there's a house you're buying and there is mold that you as a buyer or buyer's agent find out, it is unlikely the seller knew about it.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are people out there who will be like, to me, that doesn't bother me. If there's mold, I'll slip through it. But most people, they don't know there's mold. So if you are buying and you happen to find a mold, address it. The seller doesn't know, come up with an agreement. I would love to change that stigma and have people be, especially in California, it's just extremely, oh my God, buyer has the right. I'm like, buyer has no right for what? It's just, there's a mold. Like, there's so many other things can the house besides mold,
Right.
From bugs and to so many other things. So
yeah, like a home inspector, right? They're going to find other issues. When we buy a house, we live in it. Are we thinking about every single component in the house as we're maintaining it? No, right? And it's part of the process. So usually you find out all the problems in the house when you're going to sell it or when you're going to buy it, right? So most of the time, as things occur and they're obvious, you take care of it, but the less obvious things, you don't. We don't need to be this society that's like, oh, that house has mold, we need to get away from it. That person, is a bad person. They lied to me. No, it's just they weren't aware that certain things were a problem, right? Not every single person that buys a house is a home expert, right? So I think that, I love the plan of just educating your staff on what to do in the situation and trying to reduce the stigma, because you're right. And I tell people that all the time. Just because you have mold, it is not your fault. You are not operating a dirty house. It's just the fact that something occurred. Oftentimes it's behind a wall. You can't see it until you test it, until you know that you need to test it, right? If you walk in and start feeling adverse health reactions because of it. So it's really awesome to see you kind of taking that on. I mean, it's awesome.
Thank you. I think maybe if you think the actual class by you will be great, maybe we'll put the class instead of in a team meeting.
Yeah, I'd love to jump on and educate people on what they can do, the resources that they have at their fingertips, right? If you have mold in your HVAC or your ductwork, right? What can you do about that? All these things, because you don't want mold to be the reason you can't sell the house, right? I mean, that's obvious. You want to have the knowledge and resources on your team to say, all right, look, here's the deal, but guess what? We can fix this. I just opened up a branch in Anaheim, right outside of LA. So we're in town. So I'd be happy to come. I could even go out and meet you guys in person and do it on in-person little teaching. It'd be awesome. And definitely I will give everybody a copy of the book. My thing is I want to advocate for change. It doesn't start until we create the awareness that there's a need for change. It's not about money for me. With the book, I decided to write the book because it was like everything that's going on in my head needs to be out there, free public information, and so I can't be the only person, doing this. We all have to organize as a team to help change the society, whether it's the viewpoint on mold, whether it's just being aware of mold, how to deal with it, and how to solve people's problems and improve their health. So, all right, everyone, Harma Hartouni, thank you very much.